Hey guys, what's up? This is Stock Retail coming back to you on Wednesday, the 30th of August. A very special day today. We're going to talk about that. You can even see in the title, AMC Once in a Super Blue Moon. Uh, Shorter video today, not a ton of DD, although I've got some thoughts to share with you on a couple things that happened today and some things going on out there. But we'll make it quick today. And for those of you used to me doing deeper analysis, deeper DD, of course, I'll still keep bringing that, but today just wanted to do a little bit more of a flyby. All right, so the first thing is we saw some pretty nice price action today, which felt good, right? That it certainly feels good to have a green day, especially a strong double digits green day. But it's okay for us to acknowledge if we zoom out and we look at the last few years, this is kind of a you are here. That's why I'm calling this baby steps. Better day today than we've had in a while. That's nice to see. There's a few other little signs of, I'll call it like green shoots of growth, like a plant just coming up. But boy, we've got a long ways to go. And yet, I don't know, maybe I'm an eternal optimist. My friends might accuse me of that. I try to keep it real on this channel, but here's the thing. If you look at that chart on the right, you can kind of see our run in June of 2021, a couple other runs in there. This is split adjusted. I know people, boy, there's a lot of different charts out there and different ways of handling the split adjustment. So let's just look at this as generally contextual, a contextual chart. We're way below where we were in June 21. And I've done plenty of videos here. You can go find those around, what was the short interest then versus now, the cost to borrow. Obviously, some of those things have shifted the last few days. I expect further shifts, probably a little more in our favor in coming days. That's an opinion there. But anyway, basically, in general, more squeezy now than we were in June of 2021. You can see what we ran to then. You can see on the left, we were even lower, pre-January there in particular. There's some moments there in sort of April, May, June where we're close to about where we are now, split adjusted. So, I don't think it's personally hopium to say we could run again at some point. But I'm also saying, boy, that's a long ways off, right? I don't mean dates. I never say dates or prices here, but we are a long way from the top. That's all I mean. But just celebrating a nice day today. And here's something interesting to me. Actually, I'll get to that. Sorry, I thought that was the next slide. We'll get there. First of all, a few people ask me, hey, retail, what do you think about the fact we traded 33% of the float today? That's a lot. But actually, let me go back. So if you recall those January days, if you were here, I was here for that. That's basically when I showed up before I even knew what a squeeze was. I just kind of, I'll keep the story short today. I think I've told it before, but effectively I was in AMC before the squeeze in January of 2021. Didn't know about it. Saw my stock doubling a few days, these little green days over here, and no media was talking about it. And so I was like, what the heck is going on? And that's how I found Twitter. So if you're new to this channel, you might not know I was a Twitter ape effectively for, I don't know, 2+ years before I ever started making YouTubes. So I don't really consider myself a YouTuber. I'm kind of more of a Twitter ape. But this is just a way to share a lot more thoughts a lot quicker than trying to type them out in a bunch of tweets, especially back when we used to have the character limit. But here's the point. We had days here where, and Adam has talked about this in a couple of those movie showings he went to, where we traded like 2x, 3x the float. Far more shares were trading than even exist. If you were to go back and look at volume charts, you could also see in June we had some mega days. I think here, now think through all of the yes dilution, but also yes value creation. You guys have heard me talk about that. All the dilution that's happened since January 2021. So imagine a billion shares trading back then. Yes, I said a billion. And since our reverse split, that'd be more like 10 billion now, right? So imagine 10 billion shares trading. Wild, wild, wild day. I suppose perhaps I did that wrong. But anyway, the point is, that math doesn't check out. Strike that. That's on me for making that up here as I talk. But at the time, it was a billion shares, and there were far less shares in the float back then. So it was, like I said, like way more than the float traded. So that'll happen. So, all right, people said, all right, why did we trade 33% of the float today? I'm making this up off the cuff. This is not DD. These are just thoughts on, I would say it's like when you make a soup, you got a bunch of ingredients that you throw in the soup. So these are just my thoughts of possibly the ingredients of today. It does not mean that I have taken the time to go, fact check this and make sure that it's right for you guys. So please just take this as my gut response to the day. Yeah, we traded a third of the float. I would suggest there probably were day traders in. There's people who might have been trying to eyeball the bottom. When you get day traders, think through. They come in, they go out. They come in, they go out. So you might have somebody who buys, let's say, the same share 5 times in a day. That's not quite how it works, but just go with me here, and sells it 5 times in a day. So there's 5 buys and 5 sells there, but that was just one person coming in and out throughout the day on their technicals, right? They're trading technicals on the chart. Note to self, kind of for everybody, be prepared. I went through all of this in 2021. You will over time, if we start to really squeeze, you're going to probably feel some days like the day traders are scalping us, and kind of taking a little bit off the top of the squeeze. And that'll happen. So just prepare your emotions for that. There's nothing we can stop there. I suppose it's not immoral that people day trade us. The only thing that would be immoral, in my opinion, would be as if you're out there saying hodl, and then you're day trading. And a lot of us had problems with some people in 2021, and I think we've since outed them from the community. Be a day trader, that's fine. Some people are amazing at it, or be a hodler, but don't pretend you're one while you do the other. That's my opinion. Okay, but I'm sure there were some day traders today, and that adds to the volumes because, like I said, they're coming in and out, and some of them will trade heavy volumes. I do think that there's some of it that's effectively, I'm separating two different kinds of high frequency trading here. One is I'm just kind of saying the algo itself. So I think there's an algorithm that was kind of driving the day. I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute to kind of talk through that a little bit. If I go back again to 2021, so in some ways maybe I just sound like the old man who's talking about walking up the snow both ways. But when I was here in 2021, you could absolutely watch the algorithm at work. We kind of figured out how to spot it. I did not watch like the level 2 charts today or anything like that, so I'm not suggesting that I watched it and saw it today, but I think I've just been around long enough that I suspect, I have a hunch, that there was some algo trading today. That can create a lot of back and forth sales real fast. And thankfully today it was a bullish algo. It was kind of driving us up. But certainly then there's questions on when that's in control and when other people kind of can wrest control from it. All right, but then I would imagine there were also some wash sale high frequency trading. Now, when we talk high frequency trading, if you're new here, we're talking about computers trading shares back and forth in nanoseconds. In the amount of time it takes me to blink an eye, they could have done dozens or hundreds or thousands of trades. It's pretty wild. And that is a way, I've done other videos to show you a little deeper dive on how that can also be used to manipulate a stock price. So wash sale is like, let's say company 1 sells to company 2, company 2 turns around, sells it back to company 1, like a tenth of a penny less, and you could walk it down a tenth of a penny at a time. If you're doing thousands of trades or hundreds of thousands or even millions, you can affect the price of a stock. By the way, in another video, I also mentioned, if you think I'm just some ape with conspiracy theories, first of all, there's academic research on this that I've shown. You can also find Gary Gensler himself in an online lecture from his time when he was a professor at MIT. Go look that up. Look up wash sale, crypto, HFTs. Use some of those just search terms, and you can find a whole lecture you can watch. You can watch him talk about it. This is not just conspiracy stuff, I'm telling you. FTDs, I think there probably was some cleaning up of FTDs. The last couple videos I did that, I'll be honest, I was surprised at the response by you guys. That seemed to really land, and people wanted to kind of see that information. So appreciate all of you, just some of the feedback that got and some of the help to spread the word. That's what I think we need to do, is educate each other. Anyway, I would guess that perhaps there's some cleaning up of FTDs, or at least rolling. I'm not saying that FTDs would have gone down today, but I am saying, perhaps if you're cleaning up old ones and dumping in new ones, it's not quite the right terminology, but I would imagine that's part of the volume. That's the point. And then we know there's the settlement. So we've been getting our settlement shares. I'm going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute. And then the conversion itself. So that is causing some volume to move around. Things moving from the transfer agent, through the DTCC, brokers having to get us our shares, all that stuff. That's causing volume, I think, on our stock. And then there's just plain old buying, right? Apes keep buying. I've shared it in the past with you, a few different data sources that are showing apes buying. There's days where we were like 8-to-1 buys to sell on Fidelity and those kinds of things, or the OBV metric. If you look at inflow versus outflow on Webull, that's been showing heavier inflow than outflow. In other words, heavier buys than sells. So a lot of that's going on, contributing to the volume. So that's, I guess, in a way that could feel a little bit like me throwing noodles at a wall, but I do think, like I said, ingredients in a soup, I don't think it's any one thing necessarily, but I will say when we see spikes in volume, there's a lot of us who've started to feel that's not necessarily like apes woke up and decided to just buy way more shares than we've been buying. I do think a lot of apes are, consistently buying here and there, drips and drabs when you get paychecks, that kind of stuff. But I think when we see these big spikes in volume, that's institutions. I suppose I didn't even put that on here. Institutional action, and that's algorithms and HFTs. It's sort of creating volume, in my opinion. Okay, and then the last bullet here, at the money or at the market, kind of synonymous. I'm just asking whether AMC sold any shares into the market today. That's certainly possible too. When you see spikes in volume, sometimes those are going to be dips. Sometimes you're going to see a spike in volume, like on a 1 minute candle, there'll be this big move all of a sudden. You can see dips because that is dilution. We've been very transparent about that on this channel, but you also know, if you followed me, that I believe there's a following step to dilution, which is value creation. Think of it like two sides of an equation. On the left side, sell the stock, but what does that do? That brings in cash, and then depending on what a company's leadership does with the cash, you can create value. In this case, I've mentioned 8 out of the last 10 quarters, AMC has paid off debt at a significant discount. And so that's my point, that they're not only going to dilute, they're going to follow that action up with the next action, which is value creation. So I'm not scared of that, but just saying, hey, that could be part of our volume. There's a chance we find, some announcements in coming days, like a press release from investor relations. AMC sold X amount of shares into the market and got this much cash and did whatever with it. So look forward to that. Okay, a little tongue in cheek, the Seahorse returns. Look at these two shapes that I've drawn for you. On the right is our 1 hour candles today. That's kind of the shape I drew in there. On the left, well, I think that's Seahorse. Here's the thing. I have seen this pattern, and apes have seen this pattern so many times. If you went back to January 21, all the way from January to June 21, and you could find 5-minute candles, hour-long candles, daily candles within a week, you're going to see this pattern all over the place. And in particular, this is the pattern of our squeeze. I'm just going to say it that clearly. And, I don't even think I'm saying opinion. If you go back, you can see it in the charts. And for whatever reason, this pattern shows up a lot. These steep spikes, that top where either the algo or the day traders scalp it off, and then this dip and a little bit of, I don't quite want to call it a cup and handle, but I suppose you could. If I had done maybe 5-minute candles here, you might see that a little bit in the day. It's the algo. In my opinion, this is one of the algorithms. We've been under a real tough algorithm. They flipped the switch, and we see another one. And you might say, wow, that sounds really, I don't know, conspiracy theory, far-fetched if you're new around here and if you haven't been an ape for a couple of years. But again, I just invite you, go back and look through historical charts, especially all through 2021, but you'll see some of this in 2022, and you will see that shape show up over and over and over and over. You can't make a chart keep looking the same just with natural organic human behavior when there's 3.8 million of us holding. That's not going to happen. So that's what tells me the algo's back. I didn't even have to watch the charts. Interesting to see we've recombined ape and AMC, and we see this algo shape again. Can be bullish. I'm not making any promises. There's days we've seen this and I thought, here we go, and then nothing happens. There's days we've seen this and then it continues. So we're going to have to find out in coming days. Let's see how this goes. And you probably even hear, if you're a real technical trader, you're not hearing, just the fact that I'm calling this a seahorse shape, a lot of you probably even have a much more technical name for this shape, and you're looking at Maribozu candles and 3 white riders and all the whatevers. So, yes, I know a little bit about charts, but not as much as many of you. Just highlighting, though, I've seen this plenty of times, and the algo is back. All right, other interesting things we saw today, and I think we've just got maybe 1 or 2 more slides after this, then we're done. In after hours, I saw a lot of noise about Fidelity being down. That was all over Twitter. So if that hit you, I believe it's back up. Saw a lot of confirmation of that too. Just real interesting. A lot of us apes have learned to look sideways at a lot of things. Timing sometimes matters. And, I think I heard Fidelity was one of the last to deliver you guys the settlement shares. I say you guys because I'm not in Fidelity. I got my settlement shares Monday. Actually, no, I think I got them Monday night. So I did not really get them Monday. But anyway, Fidelity seemed to have dragged their feet on delivering settlement shares, if I don't have that wrong. And then on top of that, had this outage after hours today. Interesting also because today is the T+2 settlement of potentially those settlement shares. And then they have this outage. Could be unrelated. I'm not actually making accusations here, but I am saying the timing is there, and that's odd. That's all. And then just to note that I know some have still not received the settlement shares. This is just one of a few different types of polls and tweets I saw on the right here. And if you were to go to that thread, you'll see a bunch of apes saying, well, I'm in this broker or that broker, and they haven't gotten me my shares yet. So not done yet. Frankly, that matches what I predicted in various videos before the conversion and settlement. I told you guys, I think AMC's filed documents say it could even take up to a week. Maybe one more thing I don't have on the screen today that some of us are also tracking is this notion of, is Ape actually still trading? I know that sounds crazy, and it kind of is actually, but there has to do some things with basically some documentation of the way AMC kind of filed ending the Ape, and then there's, I don't know, manipulative ways that things can be traded on an OTC market. People are seeing, like, for example, the cost to borrow of Ape is still moving. That's kind of weird. Obviously, we can't just go in a broker and buy Ape. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a little different and gets over my head a little bit too, so I'm still doing some DD to try to understand it. But that's another interesting thing, just keep your eyes on. So all of this, I think, is just eyes open for apes. There's a lot going on. Okay, I want to talk about a concept I've said before, but I want to represent it a little bit differently, and then we're just about done here. So you can see I've highlighted New York here, and here's the thing. If we think about New York, so these are the leaders of Citadel, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. Obviously, you could pick any other, TD Ameritrade, whoever you want, Schwab. Sorry, family member walked by, so I was a little distracted for a second there. And not to mention the fact that it also popped in my head that I think Schwab owns TD Ameritrade or vice versa, so that's really one. But the point is, if you think about all the big financial institutions, right? And yes, I know Kenny moved to Florida and all that, but the heart of our financial markets is Wall Street, right? That is where we're seeing stock market manipulation. You see this thing that says these happen here, stock market manipulation. So if you talk about those high frequency trades, the wash sales, spoofing, mismarking shorts as longs, short exemptions, FTDs, I've talked a lot about the last couple days, dark pool trading, or if you want to even go extend that, just call it off exchange trading, options manipulation, short and distort, internalization, swaps, tokens. These are all ways that you can effectively, I'd say, game the system, but that's too nice to these guys. Fraud or defraud and steal. Interesting too, by the way, I used to tweet, if you think, like, let's say someone came in my house to steal, I don't know, $1,000. Would you say I might be within my right to stop that person, even if it took kind of physical force? Now, we get into issues if you're a pacifist and all that, and I respect that. But I think you just get the point I'm making. If someone walks into my house and tries to take my stuff, I'm kind of within my rights to say, hey, no, I'm not going to let you do that. These guys, in my opinion, are stealing billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. I don't know. Interesting to just kind of pull that thread through and think about what is it going to take to stop this fraud and manipulation, and who's going to stand up and be counted. I'm talking through legal means here. Don't misunderstand me at all. But the point is, we would stop someone from a small theft. These guys are stealing more than anyone maybe in human history. That's my point of view. All right, but so that all happens in Wall Street. Then we've got, you can see I'm a little bit, I don't know, cynical here, but I mean it, rules and regulations. So if all that on the right, it says these happen here, this says these are ignored here. We have rules and regulations in place to stop all of this. And frankly, we have the technology in place as well to help it not happen. But nobody wants to change. And I said yesterday in a video that I don't think these are flaws in the system. I think the system itself is built this way. And until we really enact change, we're not going to see this stop. Now, people try to ask me, okay, so what makes them stop? How do we win? There's a reason I'm still here. There's a reason I'm still hodling. And there's a reason I believe we're going to come out on top in AMC. And that's what makes me an ape. I'm not going to quit. Ape's not leaving, right? So I'm not spreading a message of, oh, they'll just get away with it. I don't believe they will. I do believe we're going to win. And I do believe as we make AMC profitable especially, and hang in there and do not allow it to go bankrupt, these guys are going to break. We're breaking them. That's why you see such desperate behavior by them. But nonetheless, this is a real problem that I'm highlighting. And then, if you look at all that, so just think about these happen here, these are ignored here, and then we got apes who turn their eyes over to Kansas City, right? And we say, you've got people who try to convince you that the problem is in Kansas City. And I'm trying to help you see, I think the problem is in New York and Washington, D.C., and London and some other places. But why would I look here and say, this all happens here, the regulations are ignored here, but I'm going to allow myself to be mad about here? Does that make sense to you? Because it does not make sense to me. The only way it makes sense to me is that there are people trying to manipulate your sentiment. And there are people trying to make us lose. And the way they can make us lose is if I'm cheating over here, but I make you think about stuff over here. That's just a simple misdirect of a $5 cheap magician. That's just misdirection. That's smoke and mirrors. That's pay no attention behind the curtain here. Are you guys going to fall for that? Because I'm not. I'm going to focus over here and over here on the people who actually cause the problem. Over here, I'm pretty happy about this guy running the company. And if you drop messages on my feed that are over negative, I'm just going to remove them. I've said that before. There are people paid to influence sentiment, and I'm not allowing that to happen on my channel. Now, if you drop respectful, actually thought through disagreement, fine, we can have a conversation. But just know that right now, especially you trolls, if you're here to basically try to tell me that I'm not supposed to focus on this list and the people who do this list and the people who let this list happen, I'm just not entertaining that. I'll say bye, Felicia, and you can, let yourself out the door. All right, enough on that. So here's some feelings about the day. You can see right at the top, feelings, not DD. This is not deep DD. These are just some thoughts of mine. Things that I'm feeling, gut reactions, call it that. Now, I've been an ape for almost 3 years, and I suppose I have, whatever level of intelligence you want to ascribe to me. So perhaps some of these gut reactions are right, perhaps some are wrong. I'm wondering, so the first bullet, I'm wondering if we are in a new algo era. So that's just that seahorse I'm showing you. That's a nice green day. That's an increase in volume. These are just different things that are signaling to me, did we shift from a broader bear algo effectively and some of the cheating on AMC to now sort of a bull algo? We won't know yet. It's too soon. This is one day. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm just saying, wonder if we could be there. Obviously, that would feel a lot better. Let's see. If you're a technical trader, you're watching for those confirmations of reversal. If you are a thesis trader, maybe like me, you almost don't care. You just like green days a little better, but you're holding either way. So watch for that. Kind of wondering if we're in a different algo now. We'll find out. Talking about AMC, selling shares. I've talked about so many times that that's going to drive value creation. I'm not going to stop talking about that because, frankly, our opponents won't stop talking about dilution. When they stop trying to mislead you on that, then I'll stop, undoing their misleading. Let's put it that way. Anyway, as AMC, yes, dilutes, but to drive value creation, let's look for announcements. We're going to see those announcements coming out of various press releases on whether AMC invested, paid off debt, generated cash, these kinds of things. By the way, I saw some posts that I thought were, pretty decent. People kind of talking about, hey, when AMC generated cash in 2021, that's when we ran. Because the shorts look at that and go, geez, I can't deal with these guys. I'm not going to win. I got to get out. So that can happen. I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it can. Hear that word, please. All right, then the third bullet, are we at or near the bottom? So we're watching those reversal signs. I guess I kind of already touched on that. It was a nice bounce off of potentially a bottom, but we got to make sure, I think a seasoned trader will look for more confirmation, perhaps, unless your technicals are really telling you we did it. Okay, and then future updates on candy. I'm just excited about that. And actually, I should have even put popcorn expansion. I've talked about in several videos that we will be expanding, I would imagine, doubling, tripling, however many more doors we're adding, but we're going to be expanding here. So some good announcements coming. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Finally, if you don't know, today is the last super blue moon. You can kind of see this headline. It's a little bit hidden. Last super blue moon for 14 years. You're not going to see another super blue moon until 2037, and it's today. So I guess, especially if you're on the East Coast, I'm over here on the West Coast, still daylight. I think I heard something about kind of after 9 o'clock. but I don't know if that could be different depending on your latitude. So I don't know. Check that out. But boy, I think a lot of us would love to feel like that's symbolic, right? Super blue moon tonight. I like the stock. Let's go.